think parents would be surprised with the change that happens in their kid in a really short amount of time. Um, I was, you know, I was a very active, kind of talkative kid, which my parents always supported. But I think in just a couple of months' time, I started using those skills in a productive way, because there was a conscious decision for teachers to see that.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
I think it brings the best out of kids. I was always an extroverted kid, but I don't think I really would have used that as beneficially for myself, or really been able to hone those skills if it wasn't for Albert. So whether that was like speech competitions, those leadership opportunities we were talking about, I was arts prefect. So all those things, they really allowed me to hone those skills. I think there were a lot of teachers that kind of took me to the side and said, you have these things, but these are these things that you have to improve on, because, that's going to be beneficial for your future. So I think something I appreciate is that every single faculty member, every staff member, teachers, everybody, they are 100% there to help the kid. You can tell they come into work every day and love their job. But they're not afraid to have those conversations with the kids. They really teach you how to grow up. And that's amazing. So I think the thing I appreciate the most are the teachers, and the fact that they don't mind putting in, those extra hours, if you need time after class. Well, I think, I don't know if all schools can really say that. Yeah, I mean, I haven't attended any other private schools other than Albert, but from what I've heard, some students may feel like a number, or feel like the teachers are just there to teach a course, and then they go home and they go separate. I was at Albert from 8 a.m. in the morning, or 8:30 to like 6 at night, because we would always have something going on at night. Students want to be at school. Like, that was the surprising part about it. They don't want to go home. I was a day student. Some of them were boarding, but there's either athletics after school, or arts, or just hanging out with friends, talking with teachers. Teachers become your buddies, especially when you get to those higher grades in high school. So I think what differentiates them is that family atmosphere, but also the smaller class sizes. That's something that Albert has really focused on. And I think kids are able to learn better in that environment. And I think the kids might not notice at the time, but it really did change the person that I became, and how confident I was after school, by going to Albert. So I think that's what kind of differentiates them. You don't feel like a number at Albert. You feel like it's your second home. Probably inspiring. Albert has inspired so many students, me included. Friendly, for sure. And probably driven. Yeah, so inspiring, because the moment you walk through Albert, I think a month within Albert, honestly, you really do feel inspired. You feel like you're experiencing all these different things, and you can, dive in head first. I think a really good example of that is camp. So before all the kids start school, they go to a 4-day, I think, camp, and they rent out an entire camp in the north, and they pretty much stick you there with all of your, all the students. So grades 7 to 12. The teachers are there, staff are there, students are there. You get to know the teachers, you get to know the staff, and they plan different activities for you. They kind of elaborate on what Albert College is, who they are, who they want you to become, or who they want to inspire you to become. So I think after camp, you feel super inspired. You feel it's not as scary going into your first day of school, which is something that really helped. So inspiring, warm, because again, a month after you're at Albert, you walk in like that's your home, and you know what, I think that's a very conscious decision on the teacher's part. They're very focused on who they teach. You don't know that, but they know your name. They know a fun fact about you. They know, your favorite courses. A lot of the times the teachers really want to get to know their students. And then driven. Albert is a very old school. I think it was the 1850s. It's a super old school, but it's always improving. It's always driven and improving. Part of that is I think that we're one of the first schools to get smart boards, which I remember during my time was a really big deal. So they always want to kind of do better and improve. And they're driven at that, whether that's meetings with teachers, whether that's having, these mini TED Talks during chapel. I think those are 3 words that would be perfect to describe an Albert. I think hardworking. I don't think you can really be at Albert and the teachers, the staff, the students even would tolerate a lazy student at Albert. I don't think that exists. So very hardworking. I think supportive of one another. A part of that is, whether that's sports, whether that's, leadership opportunities, whether that's plays, all students come out and support, their fellow students. Same with teachers, I think. So if, even in a sports game, if, someone kind of falls down or doesn't get that good, the entire student body is there cheering them on. So I think definitely hardworking, supportive. And again, I think I've used this word before, but probably inspiring. You're really inspired by students you meet because you meet students from everywhere. I was fortunate enough to meet students from, Mexico, Bermuda, Japan, everywhere. I mean, really across Kazakhstan, like the craziest places, So I think for me, I was really inspired by their stories. Although my stories didn't seem as cool afterwards, but yeah, I think inspiring for sure. Yeah, I think those like a part of those 5 A's for sure. So that active citizenship. I think one story that I remember was there was a lot of flooding at Belleville at the time, which is like the town that Albert is located in. I think it's still a town. I'm not sure if it's a city yet. But there was a lot of flooding and people's houses were being flooded, and it was pretty devastating. And we took half a day off of school to go and sandbag just to help out the community. So it really allows you to be something big, to be a part of something bigger than yourself. I think it really, when I see kids graduate, it's that unselfish, wanting to change the world idea. That it really is like they really do kind of embody that as a school, and they make sure that students are supportive of each other. I think that, when you attend Albert, it's a small school. So I think my graduating class was around 35 kids. So, every single student, especially as a prefect, when you get to, grade 12, every single student. If there's one kid that walks in that you don't recognize, you exactly know that kid is new. And that really, that responsibility has been put on a lot of the older kids to make everybody feel comfortable. So just really being supportive. The values, the mission statement, being an all-rounded student, a lot of those things, being a small school, that is kind of what Albert allows its students to do, right? To really be a community.
Right.
And you especially get that community feel, because you're in Belleville. I think sometimes parents might be a bit nervous because Belleville is a smaller town. It's not typical, Toronto private school. But I honestly think that's a good thing for Albert. So I think parents would be surprised with the change that happens in their kid in a really short amount of time. Um, I was, you know, I was a very active, kind of talkative kid, which my parents always supported. But I think just a couple of months' time, I started using those skills in a productive way, because there was a conscious decision for teachers to see that, and to really say, hey, that's really great, but let's use that in this way. Right. While my sister, super shy kid, I mean, just a super, super introverted kid, she ended up being a prefect. She went on stage and made a speech. She was part of speech competitions. She played field hockey. Like, it was just mind blowing what we saw. So I think the most surprising thing would be the positive impact that the school has on the kid, in the amount of time. I think I'm more of a team player too. I think Albert teaches you to be something bigger, to be a part of something bigger than yourself, whether that's a sports team, which I never would have played, I have to say, had I not gone to Albert, because sports was just not in my family. But Albert kind of throws you in that situation in the best way possible. And I think, I think for me, I've just become a more confident, more of a team player. And I see that in other people as well. I'm able to kind of hold myself in a room, when there's people that I'm super kind of intimidated by, because we have these formals also. Formals were a great way, that Albert kind of helped you. You would be able to hold yourself in a really fancy environment. And sometimes you're going to be thrown in those environments, right? So you have to be able to kind of hold your own, and be able to communicate properly and effectively, even if you are super shy or super extroverted. But yeah, I think that's kind of how it shaped me as a person. It made me more confident. Although for me, I loved that it was in Belleville. And I really like the 3-hour bus rides to Toronto to go and play other schools. I think that's a really great bonding experience. I think sometimes because it's in Belleville, you don't have as much access or quick access to other private schools. So you're a bit further away, a bit kind of drawn out from other private schools. But I think that's no fault of their own. And I think that's kind of what makes them unique too. There's a lot of private schools in bigger cities. And I think that, I think Belleville has its own charm, but it's definitely something to get used to if someone comes from, a bigger city. So it would be maybe to be in a kind of maybe a bigger city or somewhere at least closer to Toronto. Yeah, I think when you're at Albert, you don't really realize how amazing it is, as weird as that sounds, because that's just where you are. You don't know any different. But I think after graduating, honestly, I think it was in my first year of university, I saw how kids really struggled with adjusting, to being at university. Albert had a really rigorous academic program. It was great. It was all rounded. It would put you in different situations, different athletics, arts, but it did have a really tough academics program. So especially at Queen's, me and my sister both saw we didn't really struggle as much as other kids did, where maybe they weren't in as rigorous of a program. We were also, because they threw you in so many different things, we were able to multitask a lot better. So whether that was joining clubs on campus and still being able to get our work done, whether that was, making friends and being social and still being able to get our work done, that balance, I saw a lot of kids struggling with that, kids from Albert didn't as much. They also teach you how to lose, because you're in sports, you're in, there's awards, you're in sports. So you're not going to be number one every single time. And I think a lot of kids that went to university were used to that and they didn't really know how to adjust to that. So I think after I graduated, I saw how they created kids that were well adjusted, honestly. You didn't realize you were well adjusted in school, that you just went to school every day and that was your life and, all that. They also don't give, and this is a real plus to parents, they really don't give kids a chance to get involved in things that maybe the parents wouldn't want them to get involved in, get in any trouble. You were so busy and so tired by the end of the night. I just remember having, school and then your sports or your, arts or whatever. You came home, you ate and you went to bed. I mean, you were exhausted by the end of the day. So you didn't have time to get into trouble. You didn't have time to do all those things. So that's a plus for parents as well. But I think after graduating, I saw that they made really well-adjusted kids that came out of Albert. Number one, the teachers. They have I don't know where they found these teachers. They have the best bunch of teachers there. They're 100% for their students. They will go the extra, 10 miles for their students. So number one is the teachers. Number two would be the 5As. They'll be, their kid will have opportunities that they probably wouldn't have had if it wasn't for Albert. They might have, a soccer star in their home and they don't know, right? So definitely the 5As. And then the third reason would be the small class sizes. Kids learn better in those environments. And I think for me, this is my opinion. And I think that's a very deliberate decision of Albert. They understand that there's a reason why parents want to send their kids to private schools. They want them to have, honestly, a leg up, right? I mean, you're paying these tuition fees, you're making these sacrifices. Your kids are not obviously going to the school around the corner from their house. So they definitely understand that and make the entire process of high school just incredible. Honestly, the thing I would say would be take the leap. If you want to give your kid the best experience, the best overall experience, and you're focused on your kid being well adjusted and just the most confident kid with access to all these opportunities, send your kid to Albert. Honestly, when my cousins raved on about it, we were in that situation as well. We were in Mississauga. There were schools all around us. We were, kind of a stone's throw from Toronto. But I remember our cousins sitting us down and looking at my parents and saying, your kids are going to change right in front of your eyes in the best way possible. And at the time, I think my parents were kind of on the fence, which is totally fair. But they still swear by that decision to this day. I would say Albert gives you the resources, lots of opportunities, the support that you need, but just immerse yourself in that, right? Jump in. Things are going to scare you because they're so different and you're not used to having all of these things available to you, all of these opportunities. But jump in, join that play that you want, join choir, play an instrument, go join a sports team, right? It's all there. That's what's incredible about it. You just have to take the leap. So get ready for some of the best years of your life is what I would say.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.